きてり込む手がふらる閉じにはやらせんでエレキキの酒この尻時もこれてモレジティの魂で明日の君開けノクシェスはのエリだけ進め嘘ましめりもそれなり守りたい世界いやこうてて吠えてゆけ金がされも言わずつか燃える心は地も所が近いコントロールすげて回るような
3 weeks later, our protagonists had just finished lunch a few minutes ago, but this time they ordered food from a Chinese restaurant, the number of which they had written down when they went out for dinner a few nights ago. Yeah, I'm full, said Goku as he leaned back in the chair and rubbed his stomach. Ho with all that you two eat. There should be no doubt, was replied as he directed his gaze to Miu, who seemed tired, and it showed on her face as she was not radiant as always. Suddenly, the goddess stood up, covering her mouth with one hand, and ran to the house. Mrs. Miu? Asked Whis with an arched eyebrow upon seeing how the goddess had left. She's going to return the food again. I told her to eat less, but she's a glutton, Goku commented in front of the angel's concern. Goku! Kaya-sama? Is that you? Asked the Sien upon hearing that familiar voice. Yes, Goku, I wanted to inform you that Yamcha and the others have just arrived, so I will train them until they are revived, the North Kai was telling the Sien. Really? That's great. Wait, and Piccolo? He asked with curiosity. Piccolo arrived a week ago, but he was revived and sent to Namek. Apparently, he wasn't the only one who was revived, Kami-sama was too. Didn't you notice? Replied Kaya-sama, calming the Sien and planting the seed of doubt. That I'm glad to hear that, but I hadn't realized that Kami-sama had been revived, he said cheerfully while smiling. That your greetings will be given, Goku. By the way, good luck with Mrs. Miu, goodbye. He said, saying goodbye and cutting off communication. Beep beep beep. It was the sound of a little device that Miu had, as she came running. Goku, honey, this thing started to ring, here, Miu said as she left the house, and before throwing it to the Sien caught the communication device. It's Bulma. He shouted, surprised, as he pressed a button to answer. So. The famous Bulma, he said while approaching her with a kind smile. One moment, Mrs. Miu, calls her private, also, please come with me inside the house to take care of your discomfort, he said to the goddess of destruction while taking her by the dress and leading her away. Don't wait, Whis. I want to hear what they're saying. She screamed while kicking like a little girl. Hello, said Goku after accepting the call. Goku. Finally I got in touch with Earth. Shouted a relieved Bulma for finally being able to contact the Sien. Bulma? Tell me what's happening, have they arrived on Namek? Goku asked seriously and a bit anxiously. We arrived 8 days ago, but I couldn't establish communication because the machine was destroyed, but I finally managed to repair it. Bulma responded, now a bit calmer. 8 days? He asked anxiously to hear Brief's response. Yes. Also, we were able to revive Piccolo and we brought him here. We also asked to revive Kami-sama, so the Dragon Balls on Earth should be usable again, she said with huge happiness. Awesome. Then I'll get ready to go there, Goku replied while they smiled. Hurry up please, we have problems here, we even ran into Vegeta and we have teamed up since we have a common enemy. She said in a tone of concern that worried the Sien. Vegeta? I never thought he would show up so soon. Tell me if they are allied with him. Who are they facing? Goku asked with a serious tremble. Right now Vegeta, Krillin, Piccolo and some Namekians are facing someone named Frieza. Bulma exclaimed. Goku fell silent upon hearing that name, and the memory of the conversation he had weeks ago with Miyu came to his mind. Give me that transmitter, darling, said a Miyu who had lost her smile and turned serious. Goku, shouted Bulma upon not hearing the Sien's voice for a few minutes. The Sien, without hesitation, gave the communicator to his girlfriend. Tell me everything about the current situation, Miyu said as she raised her gaze to silently look at the sky. Who are you? Where did Goku go? Shouted Bulma upon hearing the voice of the goddess of destruction. Miyu sighed as she held her forehead with 2 fingers to not lose her patience. It doesn't matter who I am, tell me what is happening and we will leave in a few minutes, Miyu told Whis while looking at him. What? Bulma shouted from the other side of the communicator. How long will it take us to get to Namek? Miyu quietly asked her teacher. About 42 minutes approximately, was replied to the white-haired girl, who nodded upon hearing. Bulma, take a moment to calm down and tell me the situation without leaving out any details. Trust me please, Miyu replied in a gentle tone that made the blue-haired girl take a deep breath and stop thinking about who she was talking to. In fact, if she was with Goku it meant there were no problems. Miyu well. Atu. Miss Friend of Goku, a few days after we arrived, some soldiers named Zarbon and Dodoria started to appear, along with others who called themselves the Jinya Force. Luckily, Vegeta allied with us and we were able to win, but many were injured. Unfortunately, 3 days ago Frieza arrived. Vegeta, Nail, and Piccolo confronted him, but the bastard transformed and killed several Namekians. Although Vegeta, Piccolo, and Nail escaped, Bulma finished recounting with a tone of annoyance and helplessness for not being able to do anything to help. I understand, she replied in a tone of understanding. Don't worry, Goku and I will head over there and deal with that scum. She responded in a tone that made Bulma tear up a little as she felt relieved. She sensed that the girl was not lying to her and then ended the communication to return the transmitter to Goku. So you will go with me to Namek? The Sien asked while raising an eyebrow. Of course. Do you want to arrive in a month and have your friends die? Of course not, she replied with a smile and then turned to look at Whis who was listening attentively. Are we leaving already? She asked the angel. As you order, Miss Miyu, was said while looking at his staff for the route to Namekusei. The goddess of destruction approached the angel and placed a hand on his shoulder, then turned to Goku. Go ahead darling. Hold on to me and we will leave immediately, she said in a kind tone. The Sien was a bit surprised to know they would arrive in 42 minutes, but it wouldn't be strange after spending just over a month with his girlfriend Miyu and training with Whis. So after a few seconds, he nodded and moved closer to place his hand on Miyu's shoulder. Don't be so formal, darling, said the goddess of destruction to her partner, and then took the hand that Goku had placed on her shoulder and moved it to her abdomen. The Sien, in response, placed his other free hand on the goddess's abdomen to embrace her. Is this better, Miyu? He asked, smiling at her. Phew, much better. Whis. Let's go, exclaimed the goddess, raising her voice a little, causing the angel to nod, and thus the three set off towards Namekusei.